A village is built on a remote island. Families arrive with hope for a new life. Then, supplies run low. Their governor sails across the ocean for help. When he finally returns, he expects to see familiar faces waiting for him. Instead, he finds something terrifying. Every man, woman, and child has vanished. No bodies, no signs of violence, no graves, just a single cryptic word carved into wood. More than 400 years later, historians are still trying to answer one question. What happened to the lost colony of Roanoke? Long before the United States existed, before vast cities covered the continent, and before millions crossed the Atlantic seeking opportunity, a dangerous dream was taking shape in England. It was the late 16th century. European powers were racing to explore and claim distant lands. Spain had already built a massive empire in the Americas and was becoming one of the wealthiest nations on Earth. England, watching from across the sea, wanted a piece of that success. Among the men determined to make it happen was Sir Walter Raleigh. Ambitious, influential, and favored by Queen Elizabeth I, Raleigh believed England could establish permanent settlements across the Atlantic. These colonies would bring wealth, strengthen England's power, and create new opportunities for English families willing to risk everything. The idea sounded exciting in royal courts and wealthy circles. But the reality was far more dangerous. Crossing the Atlantic in the 1500s was not like boarding a modern airplane. The journey could take months. Storms could destroy ships. Disease could spread through cramped quarters. Food often spoiled before reaching its destination. Many passengers never arrived alive. Yet despite these risks, Raleigh pushed forward. In 1584, an expedition reached the coast of what is now North Carolina. The explorers reported fertile land, abundant resources, and promising opportunities. Their descriptions painted a picture of a new world waiting to be claimed. Encouraged by these reports, Raleigh organized efforts to establish a colony on an island called Roanoke. The first settlement struggled almost immediately. Relations with local Native American groups became tense. Supplies ran low. Survival proved far harder than expected. Eventually, many settlers returned to England. For some leaders, this would have been enough to abandon the project entirely. But Raleigh refused to give up. He believed failure was only temporary. A stronger, better-prepared colony could succeed where the first had struggled. So plans began for another attempt. This second colony would be different. Instead of mainly soldiers and explorers, it would include entire families. Men, women, and children would cross the ocean together. The goal was no longer exploration. The goal was permanence. In 1587, approximately 115 settlers prepared to leave England. They carried supplies, tools, seeds, and hopes for a better future. Among them was a man named John White, who would serve as governor of the colony. White was not merely an administrator. He was also an artist and observer who had previously traveled to the region. His sketches and writings provided valuable information about the land and its people. The colonists trusted that his experience would help guide them through the challenges ahead. As ships departed England, nobody on board could have imagined that their settlement would become one of history's greatest mysteries. The voyage itself was difficult. Weeks at sea tested everyone's endurance. Storms battered ships. Fresh water had to be rationed carefully. Families endured cramped conditions with little comfort. Yet there was excitement as well. For many passengers, this journey represented a chance to build a future impossible in England. Land ownership, economic opportunity, and social advancement all seemed within reach. When they finally reached the coast of North America, relief spread through the group. The hardest part, they believed, was over. They were wrong. Upon arrival, problems appeared quickly. The colony lacked many of the resources settlers expected. Tensions with some local groups remained unresolved from earlier English expeditions. Food security was uncertain. Even so, the colonists pressed forward. Homes were built. Supplies were organized. Daily routines began to emerge. Then, amid these struggles, an event occurred that would later become famous. On August 18, 1587, a baby girl was born. Her name was Virginia Dare. She became the first English child known to have been born in the Americas. For the settlers, her birth represented hope. Virginia symbolized a future rooted in the new land, a future where English families could thrive and generations could grow. But beneath that optimism, danger was quietly growing. The colony's food reserves were limited. Relations with neighboring communities remained complicated. The settlement depended heavily on supplies from England. Without regular support, survival would become increasingly difficult. Soon, the colonists reached a painful conclusion. Someone had to return to England and bring back desperately needed supplies. The obvious choice was Governor John White. At first, White resisted. His own daughter and granddaughter were among the settlers. Leaving meant separating from family at a time when the colony needed leadership. But circumstances left little choice. The colonists persuaded him to go. The plan seemed simple. White would sail to England, gather supplies, and return quickly. The settlers expected him back within months. No one realized they were saying goodbye for far longer than intended. As White prepared to depart, emotions ran high. Families embraced. Promises were exchanged. The governor assured everyone he would return as soon as possible. Standing on Roanoke Island, watching the departing ships disappear beyond the horizon, the colonists likely felt uncertainty. But they also felt confidence. Help was coming. They would endure a few difficult months and then continue building their future. What they did not know was that events unfolding thousands of miles away would trap their governor in England and leave the colony isolated. Years would pass, and by the time John White finally returned, the village he left behind would no longer exist.